It's the Natural Healing Reel, and I am Jacquie Capstick, your host. Today I have some really amazing people I'm really excited to share. Renée Pelletier. Pelletier, did I say that? Oh yeah, that's everybody's name. We'll introduce, well, I'll let you introduce your other part of your team as we get into this interview a bit. But why don't you just start and share your name properly and a little bit of your bio, and we'll get into what you're up to these days.
Okay, thanks, Jacquie. Thank you for having me.
You.
So I'm Renée Pelletier. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, and I work a little bit in a few other things. I do some auricular medicine. So how I started doing this some time ago is I actually got sick myself, and I had some massive digestive stuff going on. I had like the flu ongoing every couple of weeks or so, didn't know what was happening. And I started going to the medical community, and I got passed around from one person to another, and nobody seemed to know. I had all the tests, and eventually they said, well, maybe you should take these pills 3 times a day, and in about a month or so, we'll know if they work. And I was like, oh, well, like, what is it? Like, what do I have? And they were like, well, we're not really sure. And so it's probably IBS, like irritable bowel syndrome. And so, go and take these pills and come back in a month. And I was young. I didn't know anything about anything. And I just, even though I thought, this doesn't really seem right. My body seems like it's under a lot of stress, and I'm not sure if putting it under some chemical stress is going to be helpful. And so basically I threw out the prescription, and I kept looking for other people, and I was guided towards a chiropractor who probably helped me more than anybody, especially at the time, and got me on the right path. And then he ended up like basically saying, why don't you just go to school for this stuff, since you talk a lot about it, you know a lot about it. And that was nutrition. And so I ended up going to school for nutrition, and it was awesome. I loved it. For the first time, I actually enjoyed school because I enjoyed the topic. And so I started healing myself with that sort of thing. And still at the end, I knew that there was something, there had to be something more that was a little bit easier. You can heal your body with food, and I'm a great advocate for that, and I love food. There just had to be something a little easier for the people to do. And then so I went into auricular medicine, and I learned how to essentially drain the body of toxicity. And we are exposed to so much of it environmentally, but also what we eat and our emotions and everything, they act as toxins inside the body, and the liver has to detox your entire body and your kidneys. And so what I do is I drain those organs of elimination. So they're kind of like a hose, if you will, like a pipe. And sometimes it gets clogged up. And so I help to clean those out with certain remedies, and I support the liver and the kidneys and other essential organs. And everything flows much better after that. I find things start to move a lot better. So I do that, drainage of toxicity, and I also specialize in pain relief and emotional well-being. So I work with some essential oils today because I find them super effective at working their way inside the cells and cleaning things out and bringing nutrients. And so that's part of my practice.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Yes.
Jump further. So how do you find out what somebody's got going on? What tells you where somebody's at?
So depending on what that person comes to me with, so sometimes I just do like a food protocol if that's what someone wants. They want to clean up their eating, their diet. And sometimes if they say, I've been diagnosed with diabetes, or I really would like to lose a bunch of weight, or then I will assess them personally. I'll assess their body. So essentially auricular medicine and biotherapeutic drainage, we've learned an assessment technique that uses the pulse, a little bit like traditional Chinese medicine, which you're familiar with. And so we use the pulse, and the body has an electromagnetic field. I use that. And through that, I can find out what is happening, what the body is presenting with. So if the body wants to look after toxicity first, if it wants to have support of one of the organs, if it wants to deal with, maybe it's a balance of good or bad bacteria, the body will show that to me, and then I can go from there. So the body gives me all that I need to know.
And so are you energy testing the body to let it, is that how it's showing you?
Yes.
Okay.
And I use the pulse as the key information point.
And the pulse. So you're holding, you're checking the pulse and seeing whether it goes up.
Yeah.
Or
So essentially, yeah, to be more clear, so we've got an electromagnetic field around us, and it's not the aura, it is something different. And it really will be like looking inwards if everything is in balance, I want to say, and it will be looking outwards if it's not in balance and it's looking for perceived dangers outside. So I hold on to the pulse and I give it, essentially what I do is I bring my hand up to someone's ear and I do this type of a motion. And so that brings it into the field, your electromagnetic field. My hand comes into the field. And as soon as my hand reaches where the field is, so it could be here, it could be out here. As soon as my hand comes close to your field, your pulse will jump. It will give me a notification that I've just hit that field. And so every time I come in, it will jump at the same place every time. And so then I can tell where your field is. And that's essentially just like a reference point. And then from there, I check perhaps different remedies and your field will change. And so that tells me where I need to go from there.
You know what, this is, we have a naturopath that he does something similar, obviously probably a different process, but similar, and it's incredible. It will tell by the end of he was a chiropractor, then turned naturopath, went back to school and working with the energies and the meridian lines, and like he's really a neat guy. It's powerful because it'll tell your whole body, right? Like your emotions,
yeah,
like everything that's out there, and it'll just sink it right into how to. It's really an incredible process.
Yeah,
what I'm talking about here is what I just want to share. If somebody hasn't had that done, it's like, and you can feel like, you know, when somebody's thinking like, okay, what? But you really can feel that stop, can't you?
yes. Yeah. I mean, it requires some feeliness, right? I had to learn how to do it and I had to like practice, but you really can feel it. Yeah. And so essentially what it can do is there's many different ways to climb a mountain, right? So I have all different kinds of remedies to clean out, let's say, liver toxicity. But maybe for you, maybe your body's going to require a really big push because that's just what it wants. And for me, I am super sensitive. I don't like any kinds of big push. And I've seen naturopaths and I've seen people who give remedies. And sometimes I have been on these extra strong remedies where they've just kicked my butt. Like I was emotional. I was drained of energy. It was so intense for me. It was so too much. I could barely live my life. And I remember calling them up and going, I don't feel good. Like I'm not good. I have no energy. I want to cry all the time. This isn't good. And that's because it was just too hard. It was too much for me. And I'm super sensitive. So if I can see that from the body, I'll use a remedy that's super delicate and it just gives you a tiny little bit instead of this massive push, you know? So everybody's body is different.
Yes, but that's really interesting, right? Anyways, I like it. That's it. I love this work, right? So it's just, as you're talking, I'm going, okay, I didn't know that. So just carry on. I'll stop interrupting you.
No, that's okay. No, yeah, it's just a way of checking on each person to make sure that we have a process that's individualized so that we know what's best for you and your body. You know, not everything is going to be good for you specifically, and where you are, like where you came from, like what's been going on with you so far. You know, your story of your body and your emotional well-being is different than mine, and it's different to everybody else's. And so I need to look at everything that's happened to you to figure out what state you're in today, so we know where to go from here.
So can I ask you, is that a common thing that you can be given a treatment, a remedy? Is that a common thing that it could be too much? I've never even heard that before. So while you were sharing that, I'm like, wow, that wouldn't be a good experience.
No, it's yes, it can be a common thing. And so then there's different thoughts on the process. So one of them is what do they call it? I think they call it a healing crisis. And so they basically say if you have an overwhelming reaction like that, it's good, but I don't think it's good. I come from the train of thought where the body shouldn't be displaced that way. Like we shouldn't be putting it through more trauma in order to heal. And so little baby steps, or, you know, little improvements rather than a healing crisis, I think is the best way to move the body forward.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm really sensitive as well. And so, so I'll be having some of these treatments done as well. Because, you know what, I was interviewing somebody on the myofascia and learning all about that. And she was explaining how, you know, when it's all fluid and everything, then everything can drain, but otherwise we're just like getting crunchy places. And like all of this is important. I think I can feel stiffness and stuff right now. So as you're talking, I'm going, oh, I'm thinking I've got lots of stuff to drain.
Well, it's also the body communicates, right? So we have, like you're talking about the meridians before, they're the major lines of communication. And so if something has happened, like we have a scar, for example, a scar is a direct blockage of communication because it has created all of this tissue, and the blood and the information can't get through it very well or at all. And so now we have a blockage of information getting through and around the body. So if someone has internal scars, if they have external scars, that right there, you can see that the information is not properly flowing. And then we're going back to like traditional Chinese medicine when we're talking about the qi properly flowing through the energy centers from one to the other, through the meridians. And so whether we're talking about energy, whether we're talking about information, we have to have that flow, because the brain discusses with your hands what it is that your hands want to do. You have to get that information to the cells in order for the cells to move and function. Even though you're not consciously saying, please move my finger, your brain is saying it. Mm-hmm. And so that goes for the rest of your body. It goes for your digestive system. Even though you're not saying, I need to digest this muffin that I just ate, your brain is saying it, and it's sending down the signals, and all of the digestive enzymes and everything else that comes in through the neck into the digestive process. But if you've had a car accident and you got your neck a little bit tweaked and it's been pinching your vagus nerve, now you're blocking some major information that's going to lead you to proper digestion.
Wow.
We're all connected, right? We are a whole. We are more than a sum of our parts. So if you bring your car in to the mechanic and you're like, oh, my muffler is making noise, and we're like, okay, rip off the muffler, put on a new one. Well, we aren't like that, because we're like, every little bit is connected. So we can't just rip off the foot and put on a new one. There's something else going on.
Right? Like this is becoming more, this needs to become more mainstream, right? Because listen to how powerful this is. Like,
well, I think that it is. A lot of
people know that this is actually, you know, that this is happening out there, and how important, and how, I don't know, like it would just help people so much through their treatments and stuff, instead of the medication and the, you know.
Yeah. You know, like
they don't know a lot of them, right? Like,
no.
Like I'm into this stuff, and I'm into interviewing people, and I'm listening to you going, okay, I didn't know any of that. Like, it's really, that's powerful information.
Yeah, it's certainly not mainstream. It's not on the media.
Thank
But I do hope that it's getting more and more knowledge out there, and more people are starting to really, I feel like, get in touch with their intuition and start to listen to their bodies to know if it feels right to go in that direction or not. So, you know, I feel like even though I didn't know anything, I had no knowledge at the time when I got sick. The medication prescription just didn't feel right for me. And so I wanted to seek out other options before I did that. But like, you know, for example, somebody will go to the doctor with asthma or something going on in their lungs, or like a skin condition. And usually what happens is they get prescribed something for the skin, or they get prescribed something for the lungs. But in reality, what is happening is there's a root to all of that that comes from somewhere. The skin doesn't just start malfunctioning and creating issues. The lungs don't just start being blocked up just because they're, you know, overproducing of something for no reason. We have to look into what the reason is, and it usually stems back to like one of three things. And so in the case of the lungs and the skin, it's the liver that's congested. And so the liver has its ways of excreting toxins. And if those ways, those pathways are a little bit clogged, it can't get them out, and it has to get them out. So it'll get them out through the lungs, or it'll get them out through the skin. And so really that's a good sign, because it means that your liver is moving and it's still detoxifying you. However, it's coming out in the wrong places. And so if we clear the pathways of elimination, then it's going to stop pushing it out through the lungs, and it's going to stop pushing it out through the skin, and all that stuff is probably going to go away.
Okay, so when can we fit me in?
Anytime, Jackie. Anytime for you.
I'll let everybody know how I felt through it to see the shift, right? Because I really, while you're speaking, I'm like, okay, this is big. I know that I can feel it. I can feel in my body. I feel congested, like kind of everywhere. Like the last couple of days, it's been like I'm achy, and it's like, what the heck? Go to get off the couch, and it's like, and it's been, I'm not normally like that. So just the last days, I was thinking, boy, I've got some stuff that needs to be cleared there for sure.
Interesting. Well, you are very intuitive and sensy.
Oh yeah, my husband, he's like, how you just know, like, he's like, because I'll be like, how you don't feel that? Or he's like, how do you feel that?
Yeah.
So I'm like you, I feel like, unfortunately, but it is good, because then you have an easier time to get to the root of it.
Yes. It's like, it's a dual-edged thing, right? I don't want to say sword, but in a way you're like, it's really good because my body is teaching me what is going on. It is being very clear with me. It is telling me what is happening. And on the end of it, on the other side, you're like, I'm like, oh God, why do I have to feel everything? I feel so much sometimes, right? And that's a part of the spirit too. I think when I was a kid, I felt so much, and sometimes this world, there aren't always pleasant things to feel. And I really remember actually being at work. So now I'm not a kid, I'm at work, but I remember thinking, like, what I feel around from these people is not pleasant, and I don't like it. I'm going to go block it off. And I remember like putting up like pretend walls up around me. Well, guess what? That blocked off a lot of other stuff too. So interesting. But then I started to not feel the good stuff. And I was like, whoa, after a few years, I was like, what's happened? Like, I don't feel anything. I don't care. I don't feel anything. And then I started talking to some people. They were like, oh, you got to bring down those walls. And I'm like, what walls?
Yeah, I had a similar experience where I was putting up like a covering over the house and kids and family or whatever at night. But if it's being, I was putting it up over fear, right? Instead of like, because okay, I want to like if I was feeling some energies and I was like, right, and then I'm putting it up with kind of that, like that energy behind my intention. And it was interesting. I was lucky enough to have somebody call me on it and say, okay, well, you put that up based on fear. And I was like, I did? Well, yeah, I did. Cause I was like, okay, protect me. Put like, you know, all the archangels like put a covering over and da, 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 right. And yeah, then you're just going to get more of what you're, yeah, I'm just going to get
Well,
more.
actually, it's really interesting that you say that. So I started working with my boyfriend, Mark. And so Mark is a shamanic practitioner. And he works body, mind, and soul the way that I do, but even more so on the spirit realm. And so he, like, together we started teaching people how to protect themselves. And so protecting yourself is good, but in a way that you really bring in the light. And you know, you don't focus on the dark things or the things that you're scared of or those things, because focusing on that really can allow for them to step in, because there's just more room for that now, right? So we teach people how to protect ourselves. And really what we're doing is we're protecting ourselves in the spirit form, but it is encompassing our avatar, our body. So there's been a lot going on these days with the vaccinations. I don't like to call them vaccinations because they don't actually meet that definition. So I'm going to call them the jab. But there's a lot of things going on with the jab, and there's people who have been around those that have been jabbed and they don't feel well after, and they're wondering what that is. And then of course there's the jabbed who have, some of them have had some serious ailments from it. And so they have started to flock a lot to Mark, my boyfriend, because of the work that he does. And so we've started to put on these workshops, and in the workshops, we give them like a little tune-up. So we clean out the body, first of all, to get rid of anything that is not supposed to be there. And then we teach them how to protect themselves so that when they go out into public, they don't have to go out fearing what they don't know and feeling like they may get sick, because now you're inviting it in. So for example, what I was saying before about the mind communicates to all the cells of the body. Well, if I get a cut on my finger, I can communicate with the cells of the body just the way my brain does everywhere else. And I can assure it that it can be repaired very quickly, very easily, and that we are okay. It's just this temporary blow, that we're going to make it past it. And actually, his work has taught me that he can heal. He can heal himself and others very quickly by just talking to the cells. And he's skilled because he's been practicing this for, I think, since he was like 11. And so he knows exactly how to talk to them quickly. And, you know, he's been through some pretty major like blows and injuries as a contractor. And he does a little bit of that. And next thing you know, he's good. Like the next morning, he doesn't have any pain. There is no inflammation. And I'm like, what happened to your foot? Right? That sort of thing. So, so to your point of going out and not doing it in fear, and I'll give a little example of like one of the things that I like to teach people is, so I was working in the film industry a lot, and in the film industry, it's a mixed bag, right? Sometimes there's people who are like, oh no, I'm not getting the jab. And there's others who are like, oh, I just got my jab today, right? And we get into vehicles with a bunch of people. And so if you're going to be sensitive to the shedding, then that would be a place where you would pick that up. And essentially shedding is the term that we're using, but it's not true shedding, because true shedding happens when somebody's been vaccinated and the virus gets exposed from their body, leaves their body essentially, and you can pick up the virus because essentially they've had a bit of the virus in them, and so they can communicate the virus to other people. So this isn't exactly the same because they haven't injected any part of the virus. It's a computer simulation thing, but there is still some spike protein that we believe is getting moved between people, and it is causing these reactions. And so what I tell people is, instead of going out in fear, because people are all coming, they're like, oh my God, I've been exposed to these people and I'm freaking out and I don't feel well. Okay. So what we do is, I'll say blue is the color of protection. So pretend that you have blue emanating from you, kind of like your aura. Like blue is just exuding out of your body. It's everywhere. Oh, I can feel it. It feels really good. And just like all over blue, you know, your favorite tone of blue, it doesn't matter. It's everywhere. Color of protection. And so you can walk out feeling more protected that way. And then the other thing that I do is I call on my spirit animals. So the wasps are great. So the wasps, they look like little bright white lights. They're just little light dots everywhere. And I ask them, I'm like, hey guys, can you guys come protect me right now? And then they come and they just like fill up that blue space essentially. And they look outwards and they are waiting for anything to come at me, and they just gobble it up before it gets here. So these little tiny little lights, and they're just doing this. They're just eating anything that comes in. Anything. It could be toxins, it could be spike proteins. It doesn't matter. They're just gobbling it up and they're keeping me safe. And so the more I do that, the more I practice to do that, the easier it is to just do it the one time a day before I leave the house, and then they're with me. Right? So until I'm skilled, I do it every time. Oh, here come some people. And then I put on the blue, and sometimes I ask for the wasps, and then I feel protected. And to be honest, unless I've been around like people who aren't, like I didn't know just got vaccinated, I've had symptoms like maybe one time. Outside of that, and I've been around many. Outside of that, I haven't had anything happen. So pretty grateful.
Well, the whole world and still is in fear, because now the Delta is coming through, right? And it's worse and more terrible than
apparently
the corona, apparently. And yeah, it's quite heated. It's really separating, putting
extremely divisive.
Big rifts between, just because apparently, you know, having a different perspective is
not allowed
right now. It's not allowed right now. It's a very interesting time we're going through, isn't it?
It's the most interesting time in history, I believe, and not necessarily in the best way, but yes, it's very interesting.
Well, I believe that all of us that are here right now are here for this process, right? To help pull our beautiful little planet and our species through. And I think we're not supposed to be looking at the fear, right? And so I think it's put such a huge spotlight on it right now that, I mean, that's all we see. I mean, it's just the lies and the cheats and the this and the that, and nothing's happening. It's like, what? Where are we? You know, because you know, like children watching this, I mean, they think this is, you know, it's like, no, this has never happened before.
I can't imagine what they're thinking, Jackie.
Everything that's happening.
I can't imagine for young people what is going on right now for them. I can't. I'm like, I don't know what I would have thought.
Them, right? Because they're in school, and you know, as soon as you know you're not there to support them, to say, you know what, we're good, you're good, right? Because they're so little, and people are, you know, their energies are coming at them, and when they're in a big group of kids, and they're in fear, and everybody doesn't know, nobody knows, or are we going to be okay? There's people dying, and what are we going to do? You know, it's so, yeah, anyways.
So I'd like, one of the things that is told to me a lot is keep your eye on the divine. So keep your eye on the light instead of the dark. But at the same time, I go, well, it's difficult right now. And I think that this is important, that all of this darkness come to light. Essentially, it's coming up to the light to be seen so that everybody can see it. And yes, I know some people aren't seeing it still, and that's okay. That's just the process, but it needs to come up and out so that we can heal as people and we can heal as a society. You know, the society is just a reflection of the individual. And until the person hits rock bottom, most people don't choose to do something different or more advantageous for themselves. They just deal with where they are because it's not really that bad until it gets really, really, really bad. And then they go, okay, I need some change here. So
But that's the
society.
whole thing, though. They don't know that these avenues are already here, because it's, that's my, our purpose, right? Is to share this, because I mean, this will heal you over the pill at the doctors, right? I mean, we need the doctors for the broken bones and the surgeries and different things, but when
100%.
we're not feeling well and we're clogged and congested and we don't have the information of some pills and stuff is not going to help that. But
Yes.
the awareness of what you're sharing, it's everything, right? That knowledge is everything, that's happening, and that you can, visualize and know to, ask for protection, but ask from a place of love. Like, just those little tiny things are important, right? And
Yes.
it's not rocket science, just it's not mainstream.
Yeah. I look around, and the thing is, there's lots of information out there, lots and lots, and then there's both sides of the information out there too, right? So if there's, for example, we're looking at coffee, you can find studies and every article in the world that you want that says coffee is bad for you, but you can also find studies that say coffee is good for you. And so I think it's very confusing for somebody who is in finance, who's never looked into food before, to go, well, is it good or is it bad? Right? So it's the same thing as this, like vaccinations in this case are good for you, or vaccinations are bad for you. There's both sides being presented, one on mainstream media, one on every other kind of informational highway. Right? But you can find literally that for everything. And there's even a book that I just found out Bill Gates wanted us to read a couple years back, and it's called How to Lie with Statistics. Well, you can create a study to prove your point either way. So what is the end game that you're looking for? You can create that study to prove your point. And so studies and science, it's wonderful. I love science, but we have to be clear as to what science we are looking at and who has created that science, so that we have an idea of what that is there for. It's very confusing because there's so much
up to date it is, right? Because science is just busting through, right? Like, it's what's happening is just in the quantum is incredible. Well, the information that you're saying, like Mark can create healing, that's just tapping into the quantum field instead of, and he knows how, right?
Yeah. Right. And
everything's now, right? Instead of us going, okay, well, this is going to heal in a week. Well, it's going to heal in a week then. Right? It's just that, right?
Yeah. Yes, the mind and the body are super amazing, but so is the spirit. So what I've come to understand is that if you heal the spirit, if you heal on a spiritual level, the mind and body usually follow.
Well, I've been doing that work, and it's I mean, I think we're all doing that work, but some of us are not really sure that we're doing that work. We're just feeling the effects of it all, just getting battered around a bit. But it's I think it's just that shift in my body is just on patterns, and it's just running itself around and goes straight into reaction of everything. And I'll catch myself right doing my mother and like things, and I'm just not even conscious as most that we're all have these deep rooted patterns,
programs.
Just breaking them down and re-looking at. They say that after we hear something once, twice, three times, then we believe it as truth, whether it is or not. Somebody said it, then you thought it,
right?
Said it, and then all of a sudden now that's one of your beliefs, because truth. Like, that's how incredible we are.
If somebody told you when you're a kid that you're stupid, and then you heard it again at school that you're stupid, And then somewhere somebody wrote it down that you're stupid, or they were joking with you and you said, yeah, you big stupid. And now all of a sudden you're stupid, and you're stupid for the rest of your life because you didn't upgrade that program. That program's been in there since you were like 5. And obviously you're not stupid, but you believe that you're stupid. And so then you're going to bring in situations, you're going to attract situations to you that prove to you that indeed you're stupid. So it just keeps going, right? And so I'll give you a little story of what happened with me healing on a spiritual level. This is the greatest healing that's ever happened in my lifetime. So how do I put this in a good way? So when I first met Mark, we did a session together, and he does a soul journey. And essentially what he describes is, if you've been through a traumatic experience of any type, a piece of your soul could be stuck in reliving that moment. So we know when we go back to those traumatic experiences, like we feel that all over again. It's all there, very close. Well, he's basically saying that part of your soul is stuck in that moment. And so because it's stuck in that moment, reliving that thing, it's not here with you. And so he does some soul journey work. And what that does is it helps to bring that piece back and make you whole and heal that trauma. And so when we were working together, I'm not specifically sure which piece that this happened with, because we did a few. And he said, your mother is here. She's observing and she doesn't like what she's seeing. So now I did not know that humans that are still alive can come in spirit form and be present with us. I thought that happened when we died only. And he said, no, they can come by. And he said, she doesn't like what she's seeing here, that we're working on you. And so I'm going to step her back, and I'm going to let her know that she's hurting you and she can't do this. And then what I do with the misbehaved sometimes is I put them in a room of mirrors, and they don't like it. And so I offer them an exit, and then they leave. So he did that with her, and she didn't like it, and she left. And he's like, okay, she's gone, and now we can continue. And that's it. So that's really, we did like, we did a gratitude like fire burning ceremony where we talked about all the things that we were grateful for. Didn't even talk about it, wrote it down on a piece of paper and threw it in the fire. You know, all the things that I'm sorry for, threw it in the fire. And I've done those before. Like nothing's really taken place from those before until this one. So slowly from that moment, so at that time my parents were away, they were on vacation, and when they came back, I started to notice that my mother wasn't picking on me. And so since I was a child, like my mother and I have been like this, she has been really difficult for me, we're going to say. And so all of a sudden she wasn't picking on me. All of a sudden, and I started to notice after a little bit, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then all of a sudden she started to be nice, like saying nice things and being funny, saying like actual funny things. And she started listening to music like randomly. She's never done that before. And usually if I tease her, she builds up and then she explodes. And she explodes in a not good way. But now she laughs and then she teases me. I'm like, what is going on? So now today, it's been a year and a half since this started. And we are capable of having conversations. Before it was like defense. With anything, there was a wall up, and then she would start attacking from behind that wall. And there was no conversation that could be had because you can't talk to a person. Even when I was like, I just want to talk to you. No, we couldn't talk about anything emotional. It was defense. And now she talks to me, she has conversations with me, and it keeps going back and forth. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, wow, this is so great. Like, we're actually having a conversation. She doesn't get defensive. She doesn't get angry and leave the room. She just is able to communicate. I'm like, it's Jacquie, it is the like most incredible thing I have ever witnessed in a human being. She has done a 180. Like, she is happy now. So she
So
received that
you're
healing.
having, this is a mirror of yourself, right? Which you and I know she is happy. Like, look at, because I've seen you, because I know you from, I got to work with you in Supergirl there. And it's been a few years, and you are like, you are just very whole, very just you're just lit, 100%. And so you shifted, and that shift that you made for yourself allowed her to be comfortable enough to feel maybe safe to see, or what do you,
She got some
share more
some healing.
how she got this. Yeah.
She got some healing on the spiritual level, even though Mark didn't specifically focus on healing her, he was healing me. And whatever wound he healed in me might be what he healed in her. Because what happens is we bring down things in our DNA. So if you think of somebody who may have survived something very traumatic, like let's say the Holocaust, people who survived that, and then they had children, they unknowingly, not on purpose, passed down that trauma into their DNA, like deep inside their cells. And that went into their children, and that went into their children. So generations after, I feel like there's a lot of people today that have sadness, that have some sort of emotional stuff that they can't account for it. They don't know where it's from. They can't pinpoint anything in their lives that they are sad about or hurt. I believe it comes from generations back. It's not even theirs. So my mom had some serious trauma as a child. I don't know if it's from this, but I would have to guess it might be. Her brother died in a serious accident in a really kind of gruesome way. And she was just getting to know him. They were just starting to be friends because there's a bit of an age gap between them. And she was told in a really basically she saw her mom in the hospital, and her mom was in black. And she was like, what's going on? And her mom said, well, didn't they tell you? He's dead. She was like, and I think she was like 16. And so huge shock to the system, right? And then there was no talking about it. There was no like dealing with the emotions about that. It was probably more like control your emotions, deal with yourself, And so I would have to guess that was part of her pain. And she was able to get some healing on the spiritual level in some way. And she's happy, and it makes my life so much happier now.
I think that this is really, really awesome information, because they say that we can heal by doing this work. We can heal 6 generations back and 6. Like,
I love it.
So me going through all the trauma and just being like, I had to do the work anyways, because it wasn't, I needed to function to raise my children, right? And of course, we don't put ourselves first at that point, but thank God for them, right? And it's for that alone, and just as of this last week, as you're sharing your mom, I had the epiphany of that. I've been in some really deep. I think it's shadow work there, and it's. I thought I've done this work like for my whole life. It's like, what? Like, there's still more. Like,
I know, but we worked on this.
We've already done this. What's this again, right?
I know.
I got daddy issues. It's like, okay, but you didn't love me.
Worked on this.
Like, okay, I got that already.
Yeah, I know that already. I know.
But what I did get was an epiphany the other night, that because our eldest daughter and my mom had a very similar, they were very sick, very, very empathic like myself, feel very sensitive. And I was like, oh, that's what we're doing here, because I have been able to see it in a broader perspective, so I can shift, so I can heal from a different perspective, because the perspective that I'm healing from is already healed. But clearly there's this other venue that, well, we only see just a small amount, right? So, and apparently it just keeps going until for her whole life, I heard. I'm thinking, we always think that we got this time, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes up again, it's like, no, this is somebody else's stuff. This is not mine, because I got my son.
Well, the good news with why I love energy work so much is it can get straight to the thing way faster than anything else. So, you can recognize, and it's good to do the mental work, please. I love mental work. Like, you can recognize what your program is. You can recognize how you've been dealing with situations and all of that stuff. And in order to change that program, so for example, if you think you're stupid since you were 5, in order to change your thought on your own self of being stupid, you're going to have to do some work on that. And I approve of that work 100%. It's just a little bit more difficult than going to the spirit healing. If we heal the spirit, that will start to shift everything.
Yeah, and you don't have to go through so much time and work.
Yeah, and like the subconscious is basically like, we could call it the spirit, so you don't have the conscious awareness of what is going on in there because it's below the conscious. And so to shift it, it's very difficult because you have to dig and try and figure out what's down there, right? Whereas if we do some work on the spiritual realm, it pulls all that stuff up for us. So
okay, so you know what? So remember I came and did a practice with you guys. I think that I wasn't aware of that, because I probably should have been hanging out a little bit further. Because you know what, it took, I knew that I was dealing with that, but I didn't know what it was. And
yeah,
because it's like that before 5 stuff, right? It's like, I don't remember, but that kind of feels kind of scary, and that there's something in there, but you don't know what it is, and you don't want to see it. You don't want anybody else to see it. So right. What is that, right? And so back down we go, right?
Yeah, and most people don't want to look at it because they think it's going to be really scary, but the truth of the matter is that it's almost never as scary as what you imagined it to be. Once you crack it open, it's okay.
You know what? It's so crazy. It really is. And it's just that walking through that fear. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm good. Like, okay, I just did that. I just walked through that. And, and then it's exhilarating, and it gives you kind of that.
Empowers you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the shift. That starts to shift you. And then you've got to build that path, right? Instead of the negative storyline.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But it was just funny because when you said that, my mom, her house was bombed in the war. They had to go in England. They had to go down into the cellar, and she was the youngest of 9 children. And great, wow. When they came out, everything was gone, bombed. Like, dirt flying over and just dropping those bombs back then. And so I used to say to my mom, she had like she was always being called dead, right? But the doctors call her, that's it, she's not gonna make it. She was on her 3rd cat. Like, she literally, the cat was 9 lives. She just don't call her down, because as soon as you do, she's back up and at it, right? But the traumas, as looking back, you so get that stuff was passed down. That like, I didn't think I was doing her, but I was. I am.
Yeah, because like, it's deep inside your cells, how could it not be? We give cells to the other human being. We create a human with our cells. Yeah. Right? Like, how can it not be in there?
So I was a mommy's girl. So I mean, I can feel, you right. It's just that whole, the cells, the energy that is held in there. But it's, I don't know, I think that's incredible information that, the jump start on that stuff, I think is just such a gift to.
Yeah. And like you said before, I think we're all here right now on purpose right now. And so like, that's why we're here, is to heal the humans right now. The humans could use a little bit of tenderness and compassion and healing right now. There's a lot going on the planet. There's a lot going on emotionally for people, physically for people. There's a lot going on right now. It's intense.
Well, and they said like the energies of the earth are the highest they've ever been, like over the millions of years. The scientists show you that it's actually, if you're feeling it's intense, it is intense. The energies are like, I guess it's just, I think it's Greg Braden. He's got on one of the Gaia, right? I think it was
Love him.
I think you shared it with me, Gaia.
Yes.
And oh my goodness, just incredible information, right? But that's secularly over millions of years, and here we are. He's like, this isn't global warming, it's the same as where it was there. Like you can see how it's just secular, right?
But I love how he showed how when there was a tragedy, like for example, when 9/11 happened, he's like, there was major emotion there, right? But the best part about that is after that happened, when people came together and they were cleaning up the town and they were looking after each other, the vibration of the earth was at a peak.
I think that's what's going to happen here. And I think that the fear and the what's coming down with the sicknesses and the viruses, I think that, you know, the light
make way
there to, you know, for us to learn, first of all, to clear ourselves, and then hopefully we'll be there for the others that haven't known and, you know, they just don't have all of the experience to clean it, right? So
yes, of course, we can't expect everybody to know.
Lift and
so essentially we decided that we are here to help support the people to get through this time as healthy as possible. So let's clean out some of the spirit stuff, let's clean out the bodies, and let's set people up with the best equipment possible to make it through this difficult time.
I love that.
Yeah, so we have our next workshop is on this Wednesday in a couple days, September 1st. And that is the workshop I was talking about, where we clear out the body, we give a little energetic tune-up, and we also offer a little essential oils roller that is specifically tailored for clearing the blood and cleaning it and protecting. And then we show how to protect yourself when you go out into the public and how to go out with the light, basically. And so we're doing that on Wednesday. And then in the month of September, we're going to start doing Tune-Up Tuesdays. And Tune-Up Tuesdays is like a quick little tune-up session. It's going to be $20, and you just hop on it'll probably take about 45 minutes, maybe less, I'm not sure. And we're going to do a quick little energetic tune-up and answer any questions that you might have about what's going on. And that's it.
I'll be there. Sign me up. We'll make sure that we put that information with our videos so that everybody can kind of come along with us, because just that is such a gift, right? That's like super cheap too. So
yeah. Yes, I think so. We have a couple of people that just come everywhere and they're like, please tell me when you're doing anything, please. I need it. It's like air. I need the tune-up.
Well, when you get a feeling and a taste of,
it
really is. It's food.
How good it feels.
It's like it's exciting because you feel good.
It feels so good. People forget how good you can feel. You know, that's, I think, part of the whole thing is people don't work on themselves, or they don't decide to change some things because they don't even know how good they could feel. They haven't felt like that in a long time.
Yeah, you know what? That's the whole thing. We're not aware. It's so hard to see ourselves. And especially in these intense times, right? Like everybody's just, we're in the forest, we're looking, and you're not seeing yourself. It's very hard to see our part that is in there. And I know for myself, you have to be accountable. You have to feel to heal it. Right? It's like, oh God. Let's say this.
You have to be accountable.
Right? It's like, okay, this is mine too, again.
I worked on this.
And then I think the other part is that as soon as I get accountable, then my husband is unaccountable. It's like, oh yeah, this is yours. But I mean, it's everybody's, right?
Well, and like you said, especially during this time where we're like busy looking out at all of the things, we're like, like, do we even have time to like sit and be quiet and look within for a minute? Because we're so like, oh, what's happening now? Oh gosh, what's happening now?
Especially, I've really felt my energies back up and having troubles grounding again. Like I have really bad PTSD and anxiety, and I just start to run, and it's just not being kind of grounded and inside my body. But I can see myself, and I just start to spiral. But
it's fight or flight.
Really realizing that I think I just have lived my whole life in fight or flight. And didn't know, right? Because you don't know until you start to unravel everything, and then you have a look, and you're like, oh, okay. Well, that's no
wonder you're having difficulty sleeping, Jacquie.
Right? Yeah.
You know what? Show up on Wednesday, and that will change some stuff for you.
Honestly, I will be there. Because I do know that it will.
Yeah. Excellent. And then we do it at 7 p.m. so that you can just like wind down, because sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to like go take on the day now because it feels so good just resting.
Yeah. See, I think that then I do that, and then I started going back up the other way again. I need to like stay and go to bed then. Right. Instead of having the nice meditation, relaxing, doing that, and then trying to get some stuff done afterwards.
No. That's it. Healing and relaxing.
Yeah, that busy things, right? So that I don't have to. It's called resistance.
Yes.
Right? I just kill myself, right? I'll miss appointments, and then I'm embarrassed that I miss. How did that happen, right? And it's just like, oh my goodness, it's resistance, and just how much I get in my own way of myself to just.
Don't we all do that?
Thank you.
We all do that on some level.
Yeah. It's funny though, when you can see it and then you look at yourself and you're thinking, well, why am I doing that? Right? Am I happy feeling this way? No, it's just having the awareness.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just so deep, right? Your programs are so deep that it doesn't reach your conscious mind as to why you all of a sudden created this issue, why you can't go. You all of a sudden like ran into this road bump, the speed bump, as to why you can't go to that appointment or whatever. And it looks like it was out of your hands. Yeah. It looks like you couldn't have done anything different. It happened to you. But in reality, your subconscious is setting up stuff. It doesn't want you to go.
Yeah, my stuff's screaming very loud all over the place at me, but it's like, okay, what? I don't know what it is.
Oh,
but I mean, I did find, it's that little abandoned girl in there, but it's like, okay, I thought I dealt with that, but apparently, just going in and just saying, you're okay, right? I love you. And it's always just about loving ourselves, right? But nobody wants to look at anything because they're scared to figure out that they're really not enough. Right? I think that's really what the chatter must be. As I started to listen to mine.
And if you feel like you're not enough, or that, yeah, if you feel like you're not enough to be able to say I love you to me, that might be difficult because I don't feel like I deserve that, right? So that is hard.
Well, and I think too, just having a look at and looking at that little girl and seeing myself and being like, okay, we made it. Like, we're good. Because that's what it is. She's still hiding in fear, right?
Yeah.
Like, I had a mantra when I was younger because I would see spirit. I felt everything. I could feel stuff in the house. I was scared of the dark till I was like 26, just because I could hear and feel everything. And I didn't know, I didn't have the proper information. And if I said something to somebody, they'd think you're all woo-woo crazy because, oh yeah, she's thinking that she's seeing things or feeling things, right? Now, at least thankfully, there's more information and people experiencing that as well.
Yes.
But yeah, I just kept it inside as a little girl because your sisters are laughing at you. Nobody else is experiencing it. So you just
right
inside and scared.
Right. So there's people that are obviously a lot more in tune and can feel more spiritual activity. And so, like, Mark believes that a lot of those people that are in the institutions like Riverview are actually because they feel stuff and stuff has come in to mess with them. And people think they're crazy. They're not crazy.
So sad, right?
It's wild. It's wild.
You know, it really is, because you start to get that understanding of, okay, so because they're not fitting into that little box that society is all trying to get their big fat toe in, right? It's like that just really saddens me, right? That, you know, so then you get locked up and then put on a bunch of drugs and somebody thinks you're crazy.
Well,
and I heard in my head, da, 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 da. Well, did you hear? Like, no, it was, I can't even imagine.
This has been going on for so many years. We watched a documentary last night, how big oil controlled the world, how big oil something, and it's the Corbett report. Do you know about Corbett? Oh, he's one of the best journalists that we have. He's incredible, James Corbett. And he's Canadian. Woo! And he talks about big oil. So at a certain point, he discusses what eugenics is all about and how they wanted to sterilize and or kill people they thought were feeble mind or didn't have good reproductive traits. So if you were if you were thought to be feeble-minded, they would sterilize you. And or they wanted to try and kill you. So, and then if we look at back in the day, and when they killed all the witches at the stake, the witches, right? They hunted women down because they thought they were scared of them, whatever they thought.
Because they were doing healing, they were making some tonics to help heal the community, and
they were intuitives. They knew some stuff, and it scared people. So they've been trying to kill people, and you know, for a long time with that. That's like nothing new. Nothing new.
It's just so incredible though, isn't it? Because I have heard that through other like through Joe Dispenza was sharing that when we did his advanced course, and it was,
we did his advanced course.
Yeah, me and Dean came to Vancouver. It's phenomenal. He is such a leader, Mike.
Oh, I didn't know he came to Vancouver. I would have been there.
Yeah, and then my daughter and I went on his Mediterranean cruise for 10 days.
What?
So he could go because it was like the busiest crossover week, you know, with Supergirl, and everybody switches around there. And so I was devastated, but then all of a sudden it was like my daughter Andrina, who would never go on a vacation with her mother, like, come on, she came with me, and we ended up having, oh my goodness, it was spectacular. That being on a cruise ship in the Mediterranean with Joe running the show up there, they didn't want us to leave. That cruise did not want to end because they've never had
goosebumps.
Yeah, it was spectacular.
Wow.
And he'd go in and, you know, bless all the food and look after all the cooks and the chefs. And he just, you know, he just teaches people how to just go into your heart and then go from there. and love. And I just, you know, what he explains how the process, how to get into that quantum so you can have the instant healing. I watched them. It was weird. I saw some stuff. And
Oh yeah.
I know that that's a possibility, or whenever I've been in those big churches, you see all the canes and stuff. It's just stopping the story and getting into that present moment where something new can actually come and shift some energies from us, right? But
we're capable of doing it. We're all capable of doing it. We just haven't been taught. And most of us have had our intuitions smacked out of us since we were children. Don't rely on that, right? That's false information. You rely on what your brain says, the logistics of it. But the reality is, if we nurtured that part of ourselves, if we grew it, if we understood, if we were taught, if we practiced, we all can do that.
All of us, we're here for that. We're here to awaken that, right? We've got this incredible, that in the pineal gland, in the center of our third eye there, it's like a whole pharmacy, but it's all calcified over, right? And so his breath work, he's explaining how that pressure of holding, you know, from the perineum up, and then it shakes off while you're holding the breath till you're not like going, but you're just holding with the intention at the top. And you can see that there's people, and they're like, their whole body's going into full orgasm from the calcification coming off of their pineal gland. And then all of a sudden we have this vast pharmacy of everything that we need, all the feel good and the this and the that. And a lot of us just don't have any access to it, or even are aware that we have that. We don't need to go and get the cheap, crummy stuff from the prescription stores. We have access to the real, pure,
real deal.
The real deal. Yeah, it's incredible. And going through that, let me just tell you, this is not your podcast. I'm talking all the time. I told you I was a talker, right? But I have to share one thing. The pineal gland, that huge pine cone at the Vatican, at the big lookout window, there it was, right? It looks like a pine cone, the pineal gland, right? And it's as big can be. And you start this lookout point as you're going through the whole Vatican tour, and it's just like, boom, right out on the field. And I'm like, well, look at that. They know what's going on. Renee is going to finish up our information on how we can get to you and get healthy and get all this information, because I don't know, I'm really excited. I know that this actually really does work. And so I think I'm going to just share with our audience as I go through, because I think it's going to be really, really exciting to not feel like this anymore. I just didn't know that you did that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you'll get to see more of it on Wednesday.
How many people are going to the class? Is it kind of like as many can go, or?
We haven't had to cap it off yet. Like, we haven't had to be like, well, it's too many people. And we have a good amount of time. They're usually, these ones are about for about an hour and a half. So there's enough time for everybody to ask questions, and it just depends how many people jump on that day. So usually it's somewhere between 6 to 12, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can find us on Telegram, The Shaman Chronicles. You can find us on Facebook, The Shaman Chronicles. And so Telegram, Facebook, and then our email address, if you wanted to contact us, is theshamanc@protonmail.com.
Like Krypton, proton, shaman. Kind of sounds, yeah. You know what? This is exciting. I'm really, really happy to see the huge, bright light that's going on within you, and we all deserve to have that shining. I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, I think we're really working, towards our purpose. Why we're here. We're just jumping in 100%, right? Doing the thing.
Choice.
Yeah. Yeah, now's that time, right? Anything that's not great in our lives seems to be like getting ruffled up and moving out, right? Nothing sticks unless it's solid.
I love it.
Yeah.
We need a new foundation, right?
Yeah.
Nice, deep,
Yeah.
grounded, rooted.
We had essentially jumping and doing what it is that you're called to do. Just go do that thing. It's hard for people to jump and do the thing, but now's that time, people.
Well, and I think this work too, that people are kind of like, they like it, but they don't want to tell anybody that they're doing that because they think.
Sometimes.
Mhm.
Sometimes, for sure. We had on our last session, or one of our last sessions, we had one of the guys that works for us. He works for me and he works on my home, and he's just a brilliant man. And he was going through a bit of a tough time, and I was like, hey, do you want to join the session tonight? And he was like, oh, my mind is not in the place that it needs to be. And I was like, no, that's what the session is for, and I think you might like it. So he was like, well, and I'm like, you don't have to, like, it's okay, like, I just thought I'd offered it to you. And then all of a sudden he came running down and he was like, okay, I just don't know how it works. I've never done the Zoom before. I don't know what I need to do, and I know that you guys get paid for this, so I'm willing to pay. And I'm like, no, just join us tonight. So he joined us, and he was like, I don't want my camera on. I don't want to see the people. And I was like, that's okay. Like, you can do that. And then all of a sudden he had his camera on. He was talking to the people. He loved it so much, right? He got so much from it. And afterwards he was like, oh, you guys, wow. Like, he also didn't know, he spent so much time with us, but he didn't know that's what we did. Right. And he's not into that world. He's never been exposed to that. So he thought it was a little bit woo woo. It was out there, but now he loves it.
That's exciting. That's really
Yeah,
exciting, because
it is really exciting.
what people need to do, right? And I think that it's like they just don't know. It's the fear of the unknown. So instead of asking and looking silly or whatever, because they don't know, they just
Yes.
don't go. But I'm
Yeah.
here to be authentic and make make all the mistakes here in front of everybody so that they feel comfortable to come.
Yay. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me today.
Thank you. And I will, I'll make sure that all this stuff gets posted hopefully today.
Okay.
They can come and join us on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds great.
Much, Renée. It was so great to see you again.
It's so great to see you. I can't wait to see you soon.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it when you guys have new stuff to share. And,
that sounds great.
Okay, take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Mark.